order. We have approval for October's minutes. I think we have a quorum. The minutes were distributed electronically by Jan. Are there any questions on the minutes from October? No, we haven't had a meeting in a couple of months.
No, I don't have any.
Want to introduce a couple of new people first tonight. We've got Ben here, who's our new Park and Rec and Streets Director. So we've got a couple of new board members, or one at least, who we'll let her introduce herself. But first, we'll get into the new business then. If I have a motion for the minutes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second, any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Same sign? Aye. All right, then, as I said, going to new business, so Jan, if you will give us the oath of office for Janet and Christine, please?
We're both handicapped.
Okay. We'll raise your right hand. I, state your name.
Janet Fair.
Christine Purvis. Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Oh, we're supposed to say this?
Yeah.
I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of Park Board Member in the city of Casson, the state of Minnesota, to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you, ladies. Congratulations. At least I hope it's congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Not really.
Anyways,
Aboard.
so now we've got that done, we'll move forward. We actually have recognition tonight for Liza Larson, who's been our chair for several years, been a member of the Park Board for many years. We want to thank her for her longtime service. You know, it's tough to find folks in town sometimes to join our committees, and, you know, everyone always wants to complain, but they don't always want to put the time in to get things fixed. And so, thank you, Liza, to you for putting all the time in, all the care you have, and all the concern for our community. So, we'll give her a round of applause. We've got a photo with you in the plaque here.
Okay.
Jan, you want me to get a
Well,
photo?
it was a privilege, and I thank you, and it was wonderful working with everybody.
18 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, we'll have you stand right there, and I'll get a little photo.
No better person than me to present it to.
Yeah, no kidding, I agree, my nephew.
I'll say, Park Board. Good stuff. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ben.
I'm just
Thanks, you guys.
Open the paper.
Thank you for your time.
Back then, we were supposed to get paid.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. It was fun.
Every now and then I bring it up.
Okay, all right,
I think
moving
you
right
should-
down our agenda, we have an ad
Do a
tonight.
favor.
You can see here, we have a presentation, it's Patrick, is it Treehee, or?
Yes.
All right, perfect. And Ben, I don't know if you've talked to Patrick at all, but apparently Patrick is part of one of the scout troops here, and he's got a project he'd like to work on. So I think with that, we'll let him make his presentation, and then if there's any questions for Patrick, we'll ask those after that's done, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Liza, was there anything that, before, I don't want you to happen, did you want to have a little say besides your little?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Great.
No, I do, I just thank everybody, and it was fun. It was a good time. It was fun to watch the community grow, and the aquatic center, I was on that board, and just all the parks. It's been a lot of fun.
It's a lot of movement in that many years.
Yeah, there was
You know,
a lot
it's
that happened.
surprising how much happens,
Oh,
and, you know, it doesn't seem like it went very quick, but a lot of it happened quicker than what we think when you look back that far.
yeah, we look back now,
Oh.
absolutely. I don't think we would've thought we would've had what we have.
No,
Definitely not.
so, well, thank you personally too, so.
Thank you, you guys.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Liza. Sorry, didn't mean
Oh,
to
that's
step in.
no problem, it's a good ad. All right, go ahead, Patrick.
All right. My name is Patrick Tree. I'm a Boy Scout from Troop 231 in Castle Manorville, and I would like to propose my Eagle Project to you guys. So, who am I? As I said, my name is Patrick Tree. I go to KM High School, where I'm a junior, and I'm a member of the concert band, the choir, cross-country team, track team, chamber singers, as well as the Spanish shooter. I'm a Boy Scout with the rank of Life Scout in Troop 231, and I'm an incoming assistant manager this year at the Casson Aquatic Center. The purpose of my proposal here is just to pitch to you guys my idea for my Eagle Project, which is going to be making 2 bike repair stations for 2 parks here in Casson. And if there's interest, I will provide a formal proposal in the future. So I've been involved in scouting for the last 10 years. As you can see, there's me as just a little 7-year-old tiger cub, and me getting my senior patrol leader rank at a previous Corps of Honor this year. So, as I said, I'm a Life Scout, and I'm working towards my Eagle Scout rank. And the main requirement of the Eagle Scout rank is to do a project that benefits the entire community. So the purpose of the Eagle Project is to develop leadership skills, team building, just all those skills that you need to be a successful adult in the community. So the overview, I'm going to design and build 2 bike repair stations, which are going to be installed in 2 parks in Casson, the Lions Park and the Veterans Memorial Park. Benefits of these is it provides access to tools that you need to fix your bike, and people who have their own cell phone and stuff at home can research how to fix their own bike so they don't need to pay for it. They can just go to these public stands and use it themselves. And it provides kids the opportunity to learn and grow at something. Also, I used to bike a lot. I used to bike to work around town everywhere, and I've used these many times when I've had bike trouble. So a rough timeline, because I haven't made the formal proposal yet, my rough timeline is by the next park board meeting, I'll create the formal proposed packet. I'll design, build, and deploy these in spring once the ground is thawed and it's able to be built. And then this project will be complete and installed before summer starts. The 2 locations is going to be one at the Lions Park by the skate park and one at the Casson Aquatic Center Park. As you can see by the pictures there, I have ground view and overhead on the satellite. So the design, I have that picture up there on the right. The main housing is going to be made of metal, which will be painted or powder coated. And the mounting, we're going to lay a concrete base and bolt it down to that. And on that stand, there's 2 prongs on the top. That is to hold the bike on when you're doing work on it. And then it'll have a tire pump attached to the bottom. There will be all sorts of tools attached via cables to the inside of the stand. Some of those include tire wrenches to put on a new tire, Allen keys, a spoke wrench, tire pump, crescent wrench, and then Phillips and flathead screwdrivers. So the funding and the cost of this project, if you're going to buy a brand new bike repair station like the one I want to build, it will be about $1,000 to $2,000. And I believe that if I were to build these on my own, well, not on my own, but with the help of the community, I can do this for just the price of the tools. This is because a lot of times with these Eagle projects, lots of communities and companies come together and donate a lot of materials for these projects to be built. And so the funding for these will come from donations of materials and components, donations of labor from friends, family members, and community members, as well as some minimal fundraising. So the next steps here is I would like to determine if you guys are going to support this project that I'm proposing, and then identify someone here on the park board that I can communicate with in between meetings to help further the status of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, are there any questions for Patrick right away?
What would be the access to those tools for people that are stopping to use them?
Sorry, what?
How would they access the tools that you had mentioned that would be part of the kit?
So the whole tower is just going to have tools attached to cables on the inside, so you can just grab them and take them out.
Those cables are kind of extendable, is that sort of thing?
They're just going to be like more long cables. We
Okay.
can work out more like minor details in the
Design phase.
It's not
Sure.
a finalized design yet.
Sure.
Just thinking about theft.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, vandalism and stuff. I mean, this stuff's pretty secure
Mhm.
onto it.
There's actually one of these in Manorville along the bike path.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Where? By the bridge.
Right by the
Yeah.
bridge.
Oh, by the bridge, okay. Take a look. I've seen these in other towns, and a lot of people use them. A lot of people. I thought it was pretty cool.
As repairs are needed, would you be the contact person, Patrick, or would you look towards our Parks Department and Rec Department to facilitate any updates or needs of fixing those as the years go on?
Well, they're very durable, so I suspect very minimal repairs needed, but if there was repairs needed, I could be the contact person and then work in coordinates with you guys to help find a way to fix them properly.
Eventually, I would imagine Public Works will take over the maintenance, so that Patrick's gonna be busy doing college or something like
Yeah.
that. Maybe he'll be in the Navy, be a good man, just like that. No, I mean, I think this sounds like a good project. One thing I would say is, I think Ben here is our Parks and Street Supervisor, so I think he's probably gonna be your best point of contact, especially in between meetings. Just the easiest thing, 'cause he's gonna be in town all the time, and he's got staff here. The other thing I would say with him would maybe working with him on your exact locations. I think you've identified some good locations. One thing, I'd rather not have to pour more concrete if we don't have to. If we can use some of the pre-existing concrete pads and just bolt them in there, that'll be some cost savings to us. Otherwise, there'll be a concrete cost, so.
Right.
So that might be something to coordinate with him, would be exact locations within the park. Now, you kind of identified like where you think they would fit, but just making sure that they fit best there, and, you know, I don't know, Ben, if you've got anything.
I think we can use, you know, like up at the skate park, I think we can utilize the corner of the skate park versus pouring a new pad. That would just save calling in locates and that issue. And then same with up at the pool, right next to the bike rack there on the corner. I mean, we could use that too.
Mhm. That would make the most sense to me.
Yeah. So then all you would have to do is just build.
So one thing, just to clarify, Patrick said, Tim Rishka, and Patrick Scoutmaster here with Troop 231. This is his leadership project, so Patrick kind of alluded to it. The goal for Patrick is to do absolutely zero physical labor on the project. So I tell all of the scouts that's their goal. They've already proven up to this point that they're willing to volunteer and do labor. The goal of the Eagle Project is for them to lead others to do the work. And as we all know, that's more challenging sometimes to get others to do that for you, but you get more work done in the end. So ultimately, that's his task with this, is to show his leadership skills in getting this accomplished along the way. So.
Okay. Any other questions for Patrick? Otherwise, it sounds like we are some interested in it from the board.
Yep. So
I think it sounds like from you, the next step would be to bring that proposal back to us at our next port board meeting, and then we can kind of get a final approval from them, okay?
All right.
Perfect. Thank you very much,
So,
Patrick.
one more time, sorry, Tim.
Go ahead, Chuck. No, you're fine.
Timeline for the approval and everything, timeline for actually getting it built up or anything, do you have an estimate on that?
No, because the main part of the project is this like large packet of a proposal, an official proposal, a planning phase, and then an actual design and building phase. And I didn't start that packet until I got full approval from you guys that you would like support the project.
All right.
He does have quite a bit of work to do to get that together and get the final proposal put together. And then it requires approval from us as leaders, you guys as the beneficiary, and then it has to go to a higher group within BSA for approval too. So he wanted to get this through to make sure that everything was a go before he put a significant effort in on the front end of it.
So my thought was, you know, if you want to build it right and everything, so just, you know, don't be a push if you don't have to, just
Right.
get it up there.
And the actual construction of the stand can happen during winter as much as I want to, because really the main part is just installing it during winter would be hard.
Sure.
If we were to, my original plan was to bury it and cement it in, but since we're just gonna probably bolt it to the concrete that's already been laid, it's less of an issue, but still the main goal is just to install them around springtime.
Good thing is Patrick's
Thanks.
still 16, so he has a little bit of time before he turns 18. Okay, so the clock is ticking,
clock is
okay.
ticking.
So if we needed a third one, you know, because you're proposing two, correct?
Yes.
What if we wanted a third one? I mean, it's a case of where you put two on the park trails, and you like to see if we need a third or a fourth. I don't want to go beyond that. But because they're being used so much, and maybe we want to have one out by the school versus where the other two spots are, what's the chances of us getting another one fairly identical versus us just going out and trying to buy something? Or is your project gonna mirror one that would be purchased if we had to purchase one separate?
The odds are gonna be my project isn't gonna be identical to the ones that you purchased, but it will be very similar in structure and quality.
And also, we'll have more projects coming forward. I mean, there's a lot of young people within the, both boys and girls within the community now, looking, they're starting to move up that.
So they may be willing to take on another,
Definitely, yep.
I think we have some batting cages, if they'd like to weld some batting cages together, we'll pop those in. That sounds like it might be a good one for
We
the,
have one scout that's wrapping up doing batting cages that we're acquiring.
well, that's too bad. We'll tell them to come over to Castle, you know, we'll hook them up.
okay,
Cool.
thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, yeah, we'll expect a concrete proposal from you. Did you give him your contact information, Ben?
No, I can though.
Why don't you share that with him right now, and, yeah, that'll be great. Ben will get you his contact information, his email, and his phone number, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next month, okay?
All right, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And then we'll move forward on to the next item, which is selecting chairperson. So I'm acting as a temporary chairperson tonight until we get a chair selected and a vice chair as well. So, is there anyone who would like to be nominated for chair? Do we have any nominations for chair?
I will nominate Greg.
All right. We have a nomination for Greg for chairperson. This is a 6-year term, right, Greg? No, it's a 1-year term. Don't worry.
It was last time I was chair.
Just a 1-year term. No, so we have one nomination. I'll ask 3 times. Are there any further nominations for chair? Any other nominations? All right. Seeing no other nominations, do we have a motion to close nominations?
I'll make that motion.
We've got a motion from Janet, second from Ryan. All those in favor of closing nominations? Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. We have one nominee. Would you like to speak to your nomination, Greg?
No.
Okay. All right. So, seeing no conversation on there, I'll be looking for a motion to approve Greg as the chair for the 2023 season.
I'll make the motion.
We got a motion from Ryan, second?
Second.
We got a second from Chuck. Any discussion on that? Otherwise, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, Mr. Chairman, you can take over here, and we'll select the vice chair and keep moving down the agenda. All right, sir?
All right,
Thank you very much.
so we're in mode for a vice chair then, eh?
You can slide over.
Chair's on the side.
I'm getting, no?
I'll miss you.
Well, we can just keep shifting, because we have to gather ourselves. Yeah, I'll just sit right here. It's my comfort zone.
All right, well, that's fine. Just grab the hammer there. You'll be all right. Speak clearly into your
Strong.
mic. There you go, the gavel. That's right.
Okay. All right, well, it's been a while since I've been chair, but I'll see what I can do. So do we really need a vice chair right away, Tim?
I think that would just be timely, just to do it, unless we have someone who you'd like to do, I mean, I know Chris, we had talked about maybe Chris being the vice chair next year, but that's up to you guys, however you wanna do it, we can hold off on a month if you need to.
I would say let's just hold off and see, so versus throw somebody into a pot, you know, have a chance to think about it, so,
Well, you're the chair, you run the meeting.
okay, well, I do. But if I am not here, I would probably say, Ben, you'd be next in line, as I'm gonna say your predecessor was before you, so, you know, Ron, thank you, Ron, for all your time you've done. But, you know, he's got it all in his mind to share it, and that worked real well, so, next month we'll come back, and I will suggest you to be the vice chair if you wanna consider it, unless somebody else wants to come up and volunteer, so just keep that in the, but we'll push that back to the next meeting for next month, so. From there, signing the Castle Aquatic Center wages for 2023. Do we have, I guess I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I think we've discussed them, in the past, and going forward, do we have any concerns, questions on, wages of where they sit? 'Cause I know we've already,
Recommendation for the manager for next year,
I mean, as far as who or for what they get paid?
the pay first, I think.
I didn't print off the sheet. I had the sheet, for what their pay was all last year.
I've got that.
Last year, the manager was $20.50.
Okay.
The assistants were $16.25. WSIs were $15. Lifeguards were $13, and then, the second and on admissions concessions were $10.33, and the beginning ones were $9.33.
So on the baseline, that $9.33 has been shifted to the minimum wage increase from the state of Minnesota. So that baseline wage will go in, you know.
Is that 1068 or something?
No, I think it's actually $9.43 this year.
So there's an upper and a lower, you guys are in the lower?
Yeah.
The sheet that you printed out here, it says large employer minimum wage is $10.59.
First year people would be in a training wage.
Oh, the
so-
training wage was $8.63.
Yeah, and we set it higher than that because we
Okay.
didn't feel competitive. So certainly it's up to you, but that's kind of how I think we did it last year.
No, and I think that's how we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, training wage, get that first year, and I just didn't know it. Yeah, it's been a while since I had to read that myself for the store, but yeah, there was a training wage.
Yeah, that their first year, usually it's a 90-day, then if they come back the next year, they jump up to the next step, so.
Okay. So,
I do think our new manager, now, and you could talk into this, maybe these kind of meld together, because obviously based on experience. You know, Abby was quite experienced, and so that's one of the reasons her wage was so much higher. And I mean, it certainly is up to whatever the board wants to put as a
Well, and I
wage for that
think-
manager, but.
Julia, she's been there for quite some time.
Okay.
And I think from when I've talked to her, she started in concessions and she worked her way up.
Mhm.
And she was an assistant manager last year. And she came highly recommended by Ronnie.
Sure.
And then on top of that, she sat in for assistant manager interviews, and everyone who walked in said yes, like that she was going to be the manager.
so really we should keep it the same wage, because they probably have shared at this point prior to, similar, yep, and you don't want to take it away from anybody, because it is, you know, a high, I don't know, risk is the wrong word, but a position where you're trying to manage and you still have life
Very
and,
responsible.
very, yeah, that's it, the responsibility is very, you know, up there to where, I think we should keep it at the 1050 for herself. Sorry, 2050,
No
yep,
problem.
2050, so.
And then what were the other ones, Jan, if you just want to
The
run through?
assistants were $16.25. And the WSIs were 15 even. The lifeguards were 13. And then admission concessions were 10.33 and 9.33.
And that was for the 2022 season. So, I guess our challenge is, do we raise those because of
Well,
the economy's
last year
hits?
We did do a 30% increase across the board.
We did a big increase,
Very
yes.
substantial last year to kind of try and make that up, and I just think from a budget perspective, you know, you can tinker with them a little bit, you know, if you want to, but I would suggest that we maybe keep it close to what we had last year, just based on the fact that we lost $100,000 in pool. So,
And the plan is to be open more hours again, so they'll be making more.
Yeah, there'll be more used out of the budget for wages.
Right.
Well, I guess my opinion for the manager of the 2050, you know, keep that. You know, if you're gonna go up, you know, that's a one position wage, not a 13 or 15 position wage, so. Assistant manager, you got roughly a $4 difference. How many assistants would we have? 3?
4.
4, okay. You're not talking a lot of dollars when you're only dealing with minimal, people are getting that wage. WSIs, here you start talking into, the lifeguards, the life-saving capabilities of, you know, they're watching these pools and saving the kids and keeping them safe, so, you know, it's my feeling they should get paid more. Even at $15 an hour, that's pretty good. $13 for a lifeguard is probably on the low side, I would say. It's something you could bring up, it might be the lifeguards, bring them up from $13 to maybe 14, as a possibility. The administration concessions, you could, you know, you bring them up to 1050 and 950, so that's not that big of a raise. Manager at 2050, that's a really good wage. in my opinion. Leave that alone. I said the assistant, you might be able to go to $1,650, which is only a quarter, but it's a little bit more.
Are any of the assistants returning assistants, or were they?
One is returning, yep. So I just wanna kinda bring to light, I don't know if you guys are aware that the WSIs do, swim lessons. So they, both the lifeguards and WSIs have training. So, and I understand that we do reimburse them at the end of the year to do these trainings, but just kind of to put it out there, it's like $280 to become a WSI. And it's like almost $200 to become a lifeguard for the training. So I just kind of take that into consideration, the life-saving training that they have to go through to do that.
Right, but they'll be reimbursed by the city.
Right, correct.
So, but it's a case of them wanting to get to that point, to be there, I feel should be compensated
Right.
in an hourly wage. And that's where, maybe you bring your assistant manager up a little bit more than, instead of $1,650, maybe it could go to $1,725, get above that $17 range. You're out of the 16, going to the 17. Then you can bring up the WSI and the lifeguard, the $15, the $13, up a little bit more. I mean, I know there's a budget we gotta work with here too, but...
Yeah, I guess, certainly the park board can make whatever recommendation we want.
I know the board's...
The council is necessarily go with it.
No, I agree.
Because I do think, we did set the budget for this already, so it certainly is up to, whatever you want to make as a recommendation. I do think the biggest thing I would say is differentiating between the lifeguard and WSI, because we want to encourage the WSI. So it's a reward to those WSIs, because, that is a profit generator as well for the, because the lessons are a big profit generator for us, or a revenue generator at least. Not much profit to be had at the park center, but, I mean, you're a businessman, you know how it goes, but, so I would say just make sure that we differentiate pretty well between those two. The problem we run into with one returning assistant, should they be at a higher level than a new assistant or first-year assistant? And I don't know, that's not something I necessarily, have a good answer for.
It gives them the upper hand as they look into being the actual pool manager, because they've got more experience. So maybe it doesn't pay more right away, but it might pay more in the long run. I look at some of the positions like the concession stands. A lot of those kids are, 14, 15? Yeah. They're not going to they can't get a job at the dollar store. There's certain areas of community that they can't work at. They're kind of pigeonholed into that, if you will. And did we ever run into the issues not having enough staff for that? It seemed like every time we would go to the pool, there were more than enough teenagers in the concession area running that area.
So that's kind of one of the things, this is all new for me. That's kind of one of the things that I talked with Julia about is, if we don't need them, send them home. We gotta figure out a better way of staffing. And I understand that there's gonna be times where it's run, because people are coming in, people are buying food, which is fine, but as a maintenance guy, going up there and you see two kids in there sitting on their cell phones, we don't need that.
They only run one window,
Right.
typically, not two, just one. So one person's running the money and two people are...
Well, we have two windows, the one for the missions,
Yeah.
and then the one
But for the food area...
For the food area, yeah, there's only one window. So realistically, you need four, because you're gonna have one doing the crossing guard,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have one running food, one running the cash register, and then one doing admissions. And who knows, maybe we can get by with less, but I think that's a good base. I think they've had 5 at times.
I think if we were gonna raise the wage, maybe accepting the manager's wage, I think we should just do a uniform increase across the board. And that would be my recommendation, instead of saying, we'll give this guy a quarter, we'll get, say, 2% or 1.5% or whatever you wanna say is the baseline. And that way the splits are maintained, that we've set in the past, which makes sense. Because, I don't like to pick and choose, like, well, whatever. You just say, we'll do it, and that's how it works, like, for our general public workers union. They're gonna get here's their salary increase each year, so I think that's easy to explain, if that makes sense,
No, that does. Something that I don't deal with, so.
Sure.
I can speak for the council. We've set our budget for next year. We tried to cut costs in as many areas as we could, as we kept that tax rate from going up. So it may be prudent this year to keep the numbers that we decided in, was it November, October? And then evaluate staffing and say, was it was that raise that they already were given, was that enough to keep people and retain them? Or do we have to look at next year raising it some more to keep people coming in, just because budgets are tight?
Do we have any information on other pool areas on what they're doing, or?
I don't right now, no.
Is there any pay increase for experience within a lifeguard or within a WSI?
Not right now.
Haven't in the past.
And we raised those pays quite a bit, a year and a half, year.
I mean, I think most of it is the incentive, like, from going from a lifeguard to a WSI. And I do like the gap because, you know, we do need, those WSIs are lifeguards. So, I mean, they
Right.
can work as both, but it's nice to have, those are the people that are making the pool the money, running those lessons and stuff. So it keeps them incentive to improving.
And those lessons are what bring our kids in eventually to become lifeguards.
Yeah.
And if all of the candidates had their WSI, we would hire them all as WSIs? Or would some people just be hired as lifeguards?
Well, right now, so right now, that's how it is people are hired as lifeguards or they're hired as WSIs.
I think if they had WSI, I'd be willing to say, yep, we're gonna pay those.
Yeah,
Because realistically, you know, if we had that kind of, obviously, it's, you're not gonna have 100% participation at that level, but if we did, our ability to expand lessons, for example, I mean, we would go into Dodge Center in Manorville and Byron and say, hey, we got plenty of, right now, we have X number of spots, and it's pretty limited. If we had that many people, we would just expand the lessons, which would generate hours in return for us, so.
So I kinda get a consensus of either raise a small percent or just leave well enough alone. What are you guys' thoughts on the, right side of the board?
2% then, if we can do it, why not? I mean, usually you get a cost of living allowance every year, so.
Is there a way that we could put that into a dollar figure before we decide? What is 2% roughly going to look like if you...
Well, how many total
If you
employees
take
do
the
we have?
employees from last year and you add 2%,
60, something like that?
Yeah, well, I would say 60 is a fair number.
we talked about all the...
You know, we could get that number because we can say what are the aggregate hours at the staffing levels, and we can work that out. Yeah, I can't do it right now.
Do we need to have the wages done tonight, or can we push this back to next month?
I mean, I guess
So,
the
I
question,
don't-
Ben, when you interviewed folks, I mean, did you talk about the wage?
Nope. So I specifically left that out of there,
Okay.
because there were some people that, had asked, and I just said, you know, I said that we haven't set wages yet for the year.
Okay.
But, you know, they don't get their letter of official hire until, I think it's April, so I'm not saying we have till April, but I mean, we have a little leeway.
But if we push this, you know, we have a better idea what the wages will be with the numbers in front of us next month.
You could put a 2%, a 4%, or 5% on it and get the different variations of what...
Yeah, I think we can come up with a number, if you guys
Instead of
want to,
just coming up
you know, now we've talked about it, I think I kind of have a direction for staff, we can kind of figure it out, see what those numbers look like for February, that is what we want to do.
Okay, yeah, I would say let's get some numbers for next month, and if you run a 2%, say a 2% and 3%. I don't know if it's, like I said, we did do a pretty big jump to get here, so I hate to just
And that's really,
keep
for me, I mean,
climbing.
if we hadn't done, you know, 30% increase in 2021, I wouldn't be, you know, because you're absolutely right, Janet, you know, and usually you see that 2.5%, 3%, you know, COLA, we just did that huge jump, you know, and then going from a year where we made money, very small amount, to a year where we lost a substantial amount, it's one of those ones where I think it's a balancing act. But what we'll do is, we'll try and come up with a good number based on the aggregate number, we'll base it off of last year, so we'll know that it's probably not quite exact, but it's the best numbers we have. And we'll look at 2 and 3%, and then bring that back, and within that range, you guys will know kind of what 1% means.
Sure.
Like, if we want to go to 5, we'll just be able to add that aggregated on. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so let's bring that back to the next month meeting, so. Any other discussion on Aquatic Center?
So we're looking at hiring the pool manager. I think the 2050, it sounds like everyone's
It would be
comfortable
all
with.
right.
So if we're okay with that, maybe we'll be able to get that manager going. I mean, realistically, if she sat in on those interviews,
She should be
she
getting
should be
paid for
getting
that.
paid for those hours too, so I'd like to at least get her wage set.
Okay.
And it does sound like, I mean, it sounded like you guys were okay with that one, based on the,
Yeah,
she's
so,
got some experience, but she's never been the pool manager before, and it's probably a pretty good wage.
And she was making $16.25 last year?
So it's a big jump for her.
Yeah,
So
she'll be happy.
Yeah.
okay, so in this case, we'll, on new business, D, we'll review the wages, but for the new business E, to hire the pool manager, should be hired at $20.50 per hour.
I think that's fair.
Okay, do I, motion, thank you. Do we have a second? Yep, okay, all in favor of, and who is the manager?
Julia.
Julia, okay, I have Julia be paid $20.50 per hour for the 2023 pool season. All in favor?
There. Sorry.
Yep, so all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, motion carried. Julia. Okay. Any other discussion on pool? Things, move on, okay. Community education, Castle Aquatic Management proposal.
So I'll just preface this, and is it Katie? All right, thanks for coming to Katie. I know Jenny said she had another engagement tonight, but she was able to have someone come up and represent community ed. So I think it was probably in late November, maybe early December. I talked to Jenny Carrier from community ed a little bit about it. She had sent some documents over, and they were shared with the council. So the council reviewed these proposal, or the proposal, kind of draft proposal, I'll call it, because I don't think it's completely fine-tuned, obviously. And they wanted to kind of kick it down to the park board to evaluate. And you sent that out electronically, correct? Okay, so everyone should have gotten a copy. There was a draft proposal, there were also I believe two other agreements. There was one with, I think, Cokato, Dassel, and one with Redwood. They're a little different, obviously different facilities and different communities. But what it was sort of pointed towards was, I think, further collaboration with community ed on some of our park and rec programming concepts. So if you wanted to come up and just sort of talk about it a little bit, and then if you've got questions for her, that's great. I don't know a lot more about it. I just know what they've sent over, so.
Yeah, so, do you want just here? or-
Yeah, that's fine. I can
Okay.
hold you wherever's better. You can sit down too if you want. You don't.
Oh, I'm good, standing, we're good. Okay, so I'm Katie, I'm the recreation coordinator over at Community Ed. We do obviously a ton of rec coordination already. Having moved here 9 years ago, I don't have the full scope of what the Park and Recreation through the city of Casson does as far as like current offerings. Jenny and I had kind of thrown out the idea of some sort of collaboration with the city in order to better serve our community. Also help with recreation programming, facilities, elimination of duplication of services, any sort of streamline we can do as far as communication, registration, just to maximize the effectiveness and also simplify it for the residents of Casson. So there are a lot of joint powers agreements out there. Like you said, there's DAFA from Cato, but there's also Jordan, Lakeville, Lake City, Hutchinson, Marshall, Northfield. Like, it's a pretty common thing for community eds and cities that they're residing in to have that sort of collaboration. So, as far as like online presence, marketing, communication, these are all things that Jenny and I feel like we could really pair nicely together. And all of these joint powers agreements are very flexible depending on the needs of the community, what resources there are, what gaps there are, what overlap there is, that sort of thing. Does that make sense? So no, we don't have like a concrete, like, here's the proposal. I think we took a look at the Public Works Supervisor job description and kind of highlighted a few pieces that we thought Community Ed could assist with, collaborate on, whatever that may look like. We also have our you know, Park and Rec, our brochure that comes out 3 times a year, that we could put swimming lesson rates, here's when they open, you know, here's the pool hours, here's the tree boulevard program, you know, contact this person by this date. Things like that, that took me years to figure out living in Gaston, would hopefully be a little bit easier to find for newcomers and people looking for new things.
So, reading through those, I just had a few questions, if you don't mind, and you may not have all the answers.
Yeah, I'll do the best I can.
So, I think one of the components of that proposal was operations, or helping with operations and staffing at the aquatic center. And the question I had was, what would the finances of that work? You know, it sounded like, when I read through it, you know, the community ed would have revenues, the city would still be providing maintenance and the support and things like that. How would that work in terms of the financials?
That's something that would have to be, like, worked out as, I know the pool moved toward a different registration system last year. I don't know how that went on your end. All I got was, like, the community feedback on that. We constantly get phone calls at Community Ed, like, hey, I'd like to register my kid for swimming lessons. Call in the wrong place. As far as, like, if we were to take registrations, I would say for, like, a normal Community Ed class in here, where we contract out with instructors to teach a class, Community Ed usually takes somewhere between 15 and 30% of the revenue of that class. I'm not saying that's how it would work with the city. I just know that that's what we do here.
But so for example, like, you know, the lifeguards, like, who would be their, who would be their employer?
I think at this point, our preference would be to keep all of the employees and things under your bubble. We could help with communication, we could help with registrations, we could help with email blasts to our listservs as far as registering for pool passes. We could also take payments online and do those sort of things. I would just have to have a contact person in the department here to actually, like, issue them or figure out what that kind of looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my biggest thing would be, you know, if you're talking about 15 to 20%, I mean, we're at a money-losing enterprise already, so I don't know how that would work in terms of, you know, the city council having to contribute an additional $50,000 or $30,000 into it. That would seem to be problematic. So, I guess that's just something, I mean, and you guys can all ask questions, believe me, I'm not trying to monopolize.
No, that's,
I had a question. I see some, the pool is one of the bigger operations we have. The other one is the hockey rink.
Oh, yeah?
And I don't see anything about the hockey rink and taking over those type of activities. Was there any discussion, because the school district does use the hockey rink quite a bit throughout the year. That seems like a facility that's used more than the pool by our school district. Would that be a facility that they would also like to help manage or support in this type of a contract?
Potentially. Again, like, those would be kind of the fine details. We did talk about, like, ice rink events, like what that would look like. I'm not sure where the line is between, like, what is run by Dodge County Youth Hockey and what's run by the city as far as the ice rink goes. I don't know if the city has, like, programming in the ice rink, or is it just run the facility?
At some point, it'd be great if the school completely ran the hockey rink.
It might make sense, really.
If there was a way to look at that pool option, you're looking at that 15 to 20% roughly intake for the work that you would do as a concession. The district would take over completely, and we would wash our hands as a city of the hockey, so to speak. Because again, the district is using it much more than local community.
I'm not in a position where I can, like,
Oh, sure, no.
say, like, yeah, hockey rink,
That's something you
let's
can bring
take
back to
it.
Jenny, or you
Well,
can
I mean,
bring back to
I
whoever
guess
you want to
one thing
talk.
I would say is, it seems like, you know, we need to have further discussions, maybe even outside of these meetings. So it might be beneficial if this board would look to maybe have some subcommittee members that could meet directly with community ed and really flesh out, like, you know, what would this mean? Like, with the I mean, because that was one of my first thoughts too, was, because, yeah, I've been in a lot of communities where community ed does allow the programming for Park and Rec, and I don't think it's a bad thing. You know, we're really good at patching streets, and we're really good at cutting trees and doing a lot of that stuff. Doesn't mean that we're the, you know, exclusive provider for anything. You know, we try to do the best we can, but, you know, Jan can speak to how we think the implementation of the electronic payment system went relatively smooth. Now, if you go to the parents page on Facebook, you know, you might have heard some negative feedback at times, but you know how people are, they sometimes, you know, there's a lot of negative feedback in this world. So, overall, we felt it went relatively well, and certainly helped with documentation and record keeping, as opposed to doing everything in paper. You know, there's pluses and minuses to everything you do, you know, and it's the first year too, so I would expect it to be.
The kids at the pool weren't handling near the cash.
Sure. So for our kids, it was way easier for the staff, you know, for them, and we kind of went with that model that the school has, which is electronic payments for like.
Well, I think in this world, it's electronic everything. You know, how many times you get I'm gonna say retail situation, a guy doesn't even have a quarter in his pocket. He's gotta use a credit card for less than $1. It's like, really? Today's world, it's credit card, online, Apple Pay, iPay, phone pay, watch pay, whatever it is gonna be. So, you're always gonna get the negative feedback, because the negative will speak much louder than the positives. The positives are just happy they got it. The negatives wanna speak out. So, you probably got a lot of that feedback from somebody that just wanna, you know, I just wanna write a check. I just wanna do cash. Well, it's the real world, unfortunately. So, I guess when you start talking about not to get off the subject of the pool management, but you get the ice arena management, it's a whole nother ball of wax. But there's a lot more revenue sitting out there in the ice arena that I'm familiar with. I'm not gonna take the time to speak on it tonight. A lot more opportunity to make money that, you know, let's just say it'd be great if we can get school, you know, ourselves to do something to bring that income in, versus have it go out the door. So, but going back to the pool management, I think is a focus tonight, but, you know, let's keep the ice arena thing going, but, you're right, it's you know, you guys don't want to do it for nothing. Obviously, nobody would expect that. What can the city give up? You know, how much can we give up? Like I said, there's a negative budget anyways at this point. It's tough to give anything up when you can't do it, but if you get out the word of advertising, you can bring a lot more, and you can be at full capacity just about every day, if you think of it that way, to where you can make up. And that's the give and take. Okay.
When you're ready.
I could talk forever, I'm told. So, but that's where, you know, it's intriguing to have you guys step up and be willing to do this, because I think it's a need and a necessity. It would only help our community and help the pool and aquatic center.
I don't think we're looking at, like, we know that you guys are good at maintenance and roads and parks and grass and that sort of thing. I'm not good at that. So, like, I don't really want to, like, take over a facility and maintain it, because I know there's a lot of stuff that I'm not good at.
Well, this is a case where you can do all of our advertising and we'll do all the maintenance. But who gets to share, or, I'm gonna say share the cost or share the loss, the profit of the loss, and that's where, you know.
And I think, like, that's kind of where we're going, like, we
yeah,
would love for
and
there to
that's-
be, like, a City of Casson section in here, where you can put anything you want. Like,
Yeah.
I create this in-house. So adding, taking away, like, that.
And I truly understand that, you know, if somebody wants to do something separately, exercise or yoga, put it in the booklet, you know, they understand that they're gonna lose a certain percent, but that's what they're doing to get their name out there. So, you know, it might be a case of where, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and we can make this work without a fee. No cost to the city, but that's something that you'd have to go back and talk to Jenny and the powers to be over there, so, or at what expense do we do it?
Well, I mean, to your point, I know Ryan had some things, but just to your point about, you know, excess volume, you know, we have capacity to handle a certain number of customers every day. If there was a way to, not guarantee, but increase that, you know, our costs are similar, you know, it's operating, the water's running.
Right.
Chemicals you'd have to have a little bit more chemical cost if you had a larger number of kids, obviously, but, it's probably not a huge thing. So, I mean, that would be something where if you're looking at percentages, if you said, okay, you know, if we see X increase in sales over, you know, this 3-month period, based off of compared to last year's, that would be, you know, where you're saying, okay, you're driving additional foot traffic, you know. I try to talk about it like a business a little bit, because that's what it is, you know,
Yes.
we're not like a business, it's a money-losing business, it's subsidized by the taxpayers, so it's available for everybody, we want it to be open, but, I mean, that's where I can see, like, you know, if we can drive traffic, and yeah, you could see, gross sales increase of revenue, increased revenue, that's where we can say, okay, yeah, it makes sense to continue to have this
Sure.
presence and management presence in an operation where, you know, Ben doesn't necessarily have time to go figure out what we want to do for radio ads, you know, it's not in his core area.
And that's why I think it's a perfect fit, but at what expense?
Sure.
Or no expense, or little expense, that's the challenge. Not saying it's, you know, it's in the book, so you owe me, it's how much time do you guys want to dedicate to a program that, you know, you're actually getting paid by, not the city, so, by taxpayer money in this case. So, Ryan, you're on the floor.
So the salary range, I know that's probably just a number based on something, but how much of that is paid for by community ed in the district versus how much will be paid for by the city?
I believe the salary range came from the Public Works Supervisor job description. I don't feel like we put it,
Just wondering if it's 50, 70, 30, what is it, if it's a new hire, is it a community ed hire through the district? Is it a current position we have within the city? That's a large number. I just wonder where that would come from.
yeah, so that, we certainly did not come up with $70,053.40. Like,
Yeah.
Jenny and I didn't just
Yeah.
spew that out. I think the financial piece, as far as like who's contributing what, is determined by who's doing what. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't certainly ask the city to contribute $70,000 for someone to run advertising for the pool. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? And in some of the joint powers agreements that I sent over, like, those numbers are embedded in there. And sometimes it's one person plus, like, an administrative assistant that is funded kind of by that joint power agreement. I think right now, you'd be stuck with me as far as taking on these pieces.
My other question was, what benefit does community ed see on their end? What positives, what benefits will they receive as part of this proposed contractor plan?
I think Jenny and I have a passion to do what's best for the community. We're not here to generate a ton of revenue, although community ed does need to generate some revenue in order to keep our doors open. Like, that's how community ed works. School district doesn't need to generate revenue, community ed does. We see this collaboration as a way to enhance our reach. We're not doing anything at the ice rink. If we get one event down at the ice rink, that's next level for community ed. So we're not looking at this solely from like a profit standpoint. I think we just want to do what's best and have the most opportunity for the people of Casson.
And then,
That's a great answer.
Thanks.
I like that.
It's true.
It is, it's, you know, kind of the reason, you know, I'm in retail in Casson,
Why
it's,
everybody's here on the
you do it for the community, I don't do it for myself. So, and at what expense, you know, you can't put a price tag on that, so.
my last question was, if you were to take over some of the online payments, online registrations, can your current website handle that influx? I know I've signed up for community events, and there are times where your site works wonderfully, and there are times where your site does not. If you were to add that high increase in events, programs, people signing up, Would you possibly be switching to a more advanced site? Would you be using the current one you have? Because that might be an issue.
That's a good question. I think, like most websites, the device you use matters. The amount of people using that website, that system, I don't think that's the hang-up of, like, where we see the issues. It's when the processing people struggle. So when we open gymnastics registrations, for example, like, those go fast, those spots go fast. We don't see an influx of, like, people having issues or slowdowns or that sort of thing. Like, that's never been brought to my attention in the 6 years that I've been there. As far as changing sites, upgrading sites, it's something we've definitely looked at. The problem is our system, through Community Ed, talks to the school system on the facility side. So if I'm running basketball clinic, I need to reserve the gym, because that's where we play basketball. So I have to reserve it so the activities department doesn't do a 7th grade basketball practice in the same spot. And that's the only system that talks to each other.
That's what someone have to add, like the hockey rink, the pool, North Park, or you have to add those facilities within that communication piece.
In theory, but no one else in the school district is booking those spaces.
Hence, like being the gymnastics and not an issue, per se.
What? I'm sorry.
So hence, that scenario with the school not using the fields, it shouldn't be a communication issue, as the gymnastics wasn't a communication issue, because it went smoother.
One thing to keep in mind, you know, is, it's a good point Ryan brings up in terms of coordination, and thanks, Katie, for kind of laying that out. Right now, we really don't coordinate the fields a ton either. You know, that's the associations that sort of manage that. I mean, I know Ron was involved in it, and he made sure that everything lined up, but, you know, you'd have to bring in softball, baseball, you know, so that they bring your schedule, you know, they bring in their ask list, and you go, here's the dates, but it's all doable, it's just data entry, making sure that everything, you know, lines up, but yeah, that'd be something that, you know, because I think if you're gonna do this, you wanna go, I think you wanna go all out. I'd say, you know what, we need a more, you know, maybe we do need a more robust park and rec programming aspect, and maybe Community Ed can help us with that, and then, you know, baseball, softball, you know, tennis lessons, we're definitely gonna bring that, and now with the
Pickleball
tennis courts
lessons.
coming up here, you know.
Yeah, our indoor pickleball is going nuts. It just makes sense to bring that outdoors.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of things that need to be fleshed out. So I don't know, like I said, to me, it made sense to maybe see if there's a couple people from the board who are interested, and we could maybe meet with, and I'd be glad to meet with them too, staff level, and Ben, meet with them, obviously, learn more, you know, or maybe Charlie, the public works director, would go, but, you know, I think it would make sense for us to have a couple people, and they could come back, and we can, because we've got a year, this isn't gonna be implemented
Sure.
this year, it isn't gonna work, we just hired our manager, like, you know, I know that the council's perspective was, they're interested in seeing what it means. They didn't really understand it, they said, Park and Rec, take this bull by the horns, figure it out, and then come back and make a recommendation. It might be, hey, it sounds great, let's do it. It might be, well, maybe we'll try it for the pool. Or it might be, no, we're gonna stick with our own. And those are all, I think, the council's open to any of this, really.
My other question or suggestion would be, we're at that point where Casson and Manorville are almost one and combined. When you think of the school district, you think of our joint ventures.
Right.
Have you thought of just including Manorville in their parks department? Their parks departments run a little differently, there's only 2 people, but they have a park board. Have you thought of proposing this to them? Maybe you have, of where all community parks and rec between Casson and Manorville in the school district would all be run through Community Ed, because that would facilitate both cities and the district.
I would love that, Ryan. I would. In our experience, Manorville has been a little tougher to move toward new ideas than Casson. We have not brought this to their attention. I think that when Jenny and I saw that Ron was retiring, it seemed like a very natural fit to, like, hey, like, let's start talking about this, you know?
Sure. They do have a new council, quite a new council. They've got new city staff within their buildings. I know Joe's been there for a few years at their public works department, so maybe there may be some change where it might be a good fit, or even having someone from our park and rec, if this is something we want to look at, having someone bridge that gap to theirs. I'd be willing to go talk to someone or their park and rec department, just because if we're going to go all in, as Tim says, it would be beneficial to have Manorville on board, because we're already sharing money.
Well, and
It just would
facilities, like, I mean, I'm trying to think, they have 2 ball fields in Manorville?
Dennison and the one up by.
I suppose they've got the one over on one side too, is that so they have three ball
Two and a
fields.
half, three.
The one up by, I don't know if you can really use the one up by the courthouse anymore.
They use it for
Like
women's
practices
softball.
maybe, or second, okay. Because I mean, I think just even getting a nice inventory, because like if we're building this website and says, reserve your field, or like, to me it would make sense to integrate all of it. Like, how many ball fields do we really have in, between the communities? And, because I mean, we had baseball and softball both come, last fall saying, oh, we don't have any fields, what are we doing? And it's all a collaborative thing. I mean, we're half a mile away, it makes sense to see what the total aggregate, needs are though.
Make it good enough where they can't get out of it, they have to get into it.
Just means more for yourself, but it's also, time of change, and right now we're in that change. And I think with a newer board over, a newer council over there, time of change, this is a time to take a step or stay stepped back and take baby steps, I'm gonna call it. Or, it's like, or grandpa never wants to change, or grandma never wants to change, she still wants to, write a check and put it in the collection plate at church, it's the way it works, so, but that's more for you guys to figure out, but it would be nice to bring it all together, and how do you do it as a package? I think it's a great idea by your proposal on this, and for us, I'm already envisioning, because I struggle, I can't say, well, I can say struggle. I struggle to do the advertising at the store, because I'm got so much time dedicated to so much stuff, and you're supposed to set time aside for this, and the advertising can draw people in. And it's no longer people reading a newspaper anymore. You just can't put it in a newspaper, you just can't put it on, the cast in Channel 12 or 13 or whatever it is, because they're streaming something else that they don't even have those channels, or however it is.
They're never gonna see it.
Right, so this is a whole new venue for the advertising, and this is where when you drive by the pool, you get a pop-up on your phone. It's like when they walk into my store, they can do that. All of a sudden you get a pop-up on your phone saying, this is what's on sale today, if they walk in my door. I'm like, I can't fathom that, but it's realistic. So this is the stuff that we have to capture, and I think, with your guys' help, council's help, jointly, I think we can make this work. It's just a matter of how. You guys have the talent on your side, we've got the talent for repairs on our side and maintenance. Put A and B together, make C. Throw Manorville in there, make D, I guess.
Would it be possible to just, I know this is a year out, but to have the community ed just simply advertise for the pool for 2023? They can put in their payment at this website, which is still our current website, but just to kind of have a trial to be able to make our final decision by saying, you know what, just from the advertising end of that, we went up 25% in our attendance this year.
Yeah, I guess that's a good question.
I mean,
Do you
could
allow
we-
for advertising in your booklets?
Yep.
How much does that cost?
30%, I'm just kidding.
No, we do, like.
That's a good idea, maybe even advertising, because those get mailed out to everybody.
They do.
you know.
And then would it be on your website besides? Make that happen. I mean, I would just be curious to see how much that advertising affected the revenue and the participation at the pool.
How tangible it is. I mean, I know, like, last year we didn't, the year before that, we did do a radio advertising in Rochester. And I'm not saying that's a perfect equivalency, but that's a year where we didn't lose money. I mean, obviously, there wasn't a lot for kids to do in 2021. It was a little weird coming out of COVID, but, yeah, I mean, so that's something we'll touch base with them. I don't know, like I said, to me, it sounds like we have a lot of things we gotta flesh out.
No, I think there's some great, I hope your minds are spinning on how this can be put together, because mine already is. And it was gonna make it a lot less, I don't wanna say it wrong, but make a lot less work for the city. Right, or unless somebody gets the right person to do that work in the city, it's easy, but it's not, you just can't pick those people out, so,
We gotta do what we're good at.
yep. Okay.
Cool.
Anything
Thank you
else?
for
Yes.
entertaining my,
Were you interested in, like a subcommittee or something, putting anything together?
Are we interested in putting a subcommittee together to,
I think it'd be a good idea, worth a try. Advertise.
Flush out numbers, and that might be the best place to do it, I think.
I just want you all to really have a good understanding of what they're proposing, like, because if we've got a draft that covers different things, like, what do we want to include in that? Because in order for you guys to make a good recommendation to council, it has to be very well laid out exactly what this is gonna cover, how much it's gonna cost, because otherwise they're gonna go, this isn't worth anything to us, because, we don't know what we're dealing with, you know what I mean?
Can she come back next month with a more detailed list like that? What a baseline versus,
it's gonna be really hard for me to come up with that solo without the input of someone here who can talk for the Park and Rec Board. I'm happy to come back.
and
Come back every month, don't worry.
Yeah.
I mean, that is in the proposal.
Somewhere where, Ben, as you get into this role, and you see all the different facets and all the different cookie jars that Ronnie had his fingers in, is this a good avenue for you to look at those different areas and then go back to Kate and Jenny and say, here are the areas that this looks like it would benefit, and then move from there? So then because you're gonna be seeing all those different areas in your role, giving them the ones that you think it would most beneficial for. Is it the pool? Is it our fields? Is it our hockey rink? Is it the skate park? What areas do you feel like we want to collaborate on versus which ones should we continue to control solo?
And obviously I'm just getting my feet wet now. Just kind of dealing with the pool, the beginning of the year, or the start of this job, the hiring, and then finding these kids somewhere to go to get licensed for lifeguard and WSIs. That's definitely a challenge for me, but this is also the first time I've ever had to do this, so I kind of look at it, well, next year, at least I'll know what to do or where to go. But, as far as some of that stuff goes, that's, probably my weakest point is understanding all that stuff, but as experience, I can, figure some of that out. We're good with the maintenance stuff, that's what we do. I think the staffing and stuff like that is probably the hardest. But I do plan to be up there quite a bit this year, just kind of, I need to oversee it, I need to see what's going on, I need to see our daily operations. Or, in the past year, we were up there as maintenance guys, so we didn't, we're not paying attention to who's coming in, who's going out, we're just looking at chemicals to pumps, stuff breaking.
I would be willing to be that contact. I'm at the building every day too, so if we had to meet after school, before school, I'll be there. So if you need someone that needs to be able to sit and have those conversations, I might have the most ease of finding time to do that. So I wouldn't.
Why don't we see if, maybe Ben, you wanna connect with Jenny and Katie, and then figure out where we can start setting up a time maybe, and if you're interested, we've got to participate too, just so I know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And, kind of.
As long as we
really
can kind of
zoom in.
hatch out exactly what your interest is in it, I think, it would shed some light on what you guys are expecting versus, I guess.
I think to have Tim and Ryan, knowing what the council's gonna need to have, will help you guys explain, saying, here's what we're gonna take away, but, it's gonna, you guys, I think with the three have been trying to get, being a newbie, there's a lot gonna be on his plate. It's gonna take a while, so I think with the guidance of you two and Ben and yourself and Jenny meeting, coming up with something to say this is how it would work. And my suggestion would be start with the pool first. Don't get into the ballparks.
Step at a time.
If the pool works, then for 2024, we can always, accept or accommodate the rest of the venues throughout the city easier, knowing the transition. So I would say don't try to take it all one step, just stay with the pool.
I
I would've said the opposite, because the pool's the biggest money piece where the parks, although the maintenance costs, all the other piece, it's less management in terms of usage.
Okay, so with that said, you say we don't do anything with the pool, but do we do it with the parks?
Well, I think that's what we need to meet, to talk to them and see what makes the most sense, because,
Okay.
yeah, I can see this going a couple different ways, and I think she talked about all the different cities that have got agreements, and each one's a little different, because some towns just, Dassel doesn't have a pool, so they don't worry about that. It's their outside hockey rink and their, warming house and their, splash pad or whatever.
Okay, I got you,
So,
yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is good.
So citywide,
conversation.
activities
I'm not sure,
wide,
like, we're ready to take on, like, the full scope of the pool. Like, I don't think we're set up to do that. Like, we could take swimming lessons. Like, we could start maybe there.
Well,
As far as,
take
like,
a look and see.
employing 20 additional people.
no, and that makes sense, I was centered on the pool the whole time, because that's what the aquatic thing was, but where it could be easier step with the other stuff,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, it sounds good. We'll
Okay.
set up a meeting here for maybe the end of this month or beginning of February, and then we'll see what we can get out of that, and then we'll try and report back, and we'll probably maybe have this on the agenda every month until we're thumbs up or thumbs down, kind of.
Okay, every
That
month,
makes
or, if you
And
need to
we'll
skip a
be on
month, at least we'll get
topic
back in
for it.
March to a follow-up, so.
Yeah, well, we plan on bringing it back in March. That'll give us a little.
That way you're not so rushed for something for next month, 'cause it's gonna come pretty quick, so. We're gonna have Ryan, Tim, and Ben.
And anybody else who wants to, believe me, I do not need to be, the only one here. I want you all to be involved, because, obviously, you're a good board, and you've got a lot of experience, between who's on the board and all, and new ideas, so.
Trust me,
if you're
I'd
interested-
love to get out of work sometime, but.
You would.
You can hang out with us sometime.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have cookies and stuff over there too, treats?
We had a full sheet cake today, Greg.
Well, where are the remnants?
Okay, well, don't be surprised if I don't show up sometime, Katie.
Next time, you need to bring Greg to sweeten them up a little bit.
All right, thank you, Katie, for your time, so. Okay, anything else on new business that we have that we've missed or want some comments on? No? Okay, so let's go down to old business. So let's go to the tennis court surface. Tim?
Oh, good news, I think, at least. Based on our budgetary performance last year, the council was comfortable moving forward with a proposal for $121,000, so we will be putting that sport court on the tennis courts this year. We communicated with the company, and was that mine? You're not giving her mine?
It was.
Oh.
I'll bring you a bigger one
Okay,
next month.
That sounds good, that's good.
Here.
Anyway.
Sorry, this
so-
was gonna go, but the
Yeah.
ladies need it. I'll bring two for next month.
This is your chair here, folks. You just elected him, so,
Yeah,
No, so
Sorry, 'cause I couldn't reach
$121,000,
Ryan's.
so it is gonna be installed this spring, and it's a tileized court, which I think, that was shared with everyone here. I think maybe Christine, maybe we'll send a copy of that out to you. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna come in, the company, we contracted it out, they're gonna come in and they're gonna be doing a crack filling, basically where the cracks are, and they're gonna be leveling it out, and then it's gonna be a black coat they'll be putting on top. And then, once that's done, then the surface will go on top of that. So they're gonna level it out, they're gonna fill those cracks, and then they'll put the surface on top. And it's, gonna be two full tennis courts, as well as 4 pickleball courts. So there'll be a pickleball court on each half of the tennis courts. And they'll be lined so that they're a different color. So we have seen interest in pickleball, we do see some folks who go outside. With pickleball, it's really a cumulative thing. So if you got one pickleball court, it's nice. When you've got 4, you get to see a lot of people, because they like to, they like bigger groups usually that like to come and play. So I think, I'll be coordinating with the electric department this year too. We'll be looking at the lights out there. It may be that those end up being replaced as well, simply because they're not they haven't been used a lot and they're not great. So we may be looking at changing those out too. But, so just a brief update, want to let you know that we are moving forward with the project this year, so that's exciting. And with that, I think that Veterans Park is, really in good shape. We've got the mulch was put down last year, which is it's a big improvement over what was there. Obviously, the wall's been largely repaired, it's in much better shape than it was. And then, the ball fields and stuff are looking good. So I'm really excited to be able to offer that. Once again, another thing we can offer to the community, that we, in a city of 7,000, does not have a tennis court, that seems, so it'll be nice to have those up in operation, so.
Good. Good. And that's gonna that's the spring they're gonna start that.
Yeah, I think they're looking at probably April. They were hoping to have, as soon as it warms up and they can kind of get out there without, it has to be dry to do a lot of these things, drier.
Do they have a time frame for when it would be done?
Anticipated June 1st, so it should be ready for this.
So ready for summer?
Yeah,
Okay.
summer cycle, yeah.
We pay for that through the liquor store fund.
That's right, and that's a good point. So, you know, don't be afraid to go over to the Casson Municipal Liquor Store, because Kathy, maybe grudgingly, but she's gonna be paid for it with proceeds that were accrued, so that's really, it's not gonna cost the taxpayers anything, which is great.
Before you go to pickleball, stop at the liquor store and set up your pickleball.
Not too often.
Get your rehydration from the liquor store on your way to the pickleball courts.
So maybe we should.
Yeah, afterwards, maybe.
Remember to pick up your cans leaving the pickleball
Will we
court.
put anything out there that says those donations?
We are planning on doing a plaque. Yep. So I talked to Kathy about that already, so.
That's a big chunk of money, and they do, the liquor store does provide a lot of support to the community, and that's part of the reason we have it and the way it runs.
So maybe we'll look at a pickleball tournament of some kind for the festival.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I think that might be possible.
Definitely a possibility, yeah.
Definitely, I mean, anything we can do to bring people in. I think the bratwurst, the bratwurst extravaganza at the festival, I've recommended that to Chris, to the mayor already, kind of.
Keep it going,
Bratwurst
keep pushing.
competition, where, all you can eat bratwurst, and, I feel like that, that'll bring the people in.
What happens if you suggest that you're the one in charge of
Yeah, see, that's the problem. I gotta watch out. I'll be grilling back there, all black and white.
Just say you know somebody a friend that knows a friend that wanted you to say about.
Right. Hey, it always comes from the public when I tell the mayor.
That's good.
Somebody told me from the public.
Yep, and can't reveal the name just yet.
Is it something they used to have? That must be before my time.
We never had a brat festival.
I was gonna say, I didn't,
No, it's a little bit of a joke, but I feel like food drives the membership for the people of these festivals. Like, I was down in Iowa, I was driving through this little town, 500 people, Bratwurst Festival, they draw in 15,000 people to
do
this
they
town,
have
500.
it on strings?
What's that?
Do they have it on a string?
No, I don't know
over a
how
rod?
they serve it, but I just, this is off topic, obviously, we're right off topic here, but, it's kind of.
Not really, that's what we do.
But, no, I just was like, you know what, sometimes that food thing, it's the one thing around here that you don't have, is something like that, where, because sometimes towns, we got festivals in the summer that are like, boom, 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 and it's like, oh, after a while, people get kinda tired of it. It's like, you had something that was, you advertised on the radio and said, hey, we're,
Something unique, something
Bratwurst
different, something that's gonna go,
part of the-
ooh, we should go.
I don't know.
Nope, you grab their attention, they will come.
Well, exactly,
So,
and
yep.
I love bratwurst, so, it's pretty easy, I'll make sure I'm up there,
Okay, we won't mention your name to
Thanks,
Chris.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, well, good news on tennis court, so.
Absolutely, yes.
Going on to the old stone wall, Janet?
Yeah, I was just kinda wondering, did we get, Dingley back? Probably not in the fall?
Yep, he came back in the fall,
Did he?
that's right.
Okay, he did, and finished up the bit, okay, and has it been sealed?
Yes.
It
Yep.
has, okay. And I know that we talked that we had to get some cement work done behind the wall. He talked about that, Ronnie talked about just a little lip or something back there, and it was supposed to be dug out so that grass wasn't right next to the wall. And I was just wondering if we're gonna do that, or...
We can surely look into it. I didn't know about that. I know that they redid, in front of the wall where the sidewalk was, because they had to raise it up. But I guess I didn't know about the backside of it.
Well, I know he had talked about it,
Okay.
Ronnie and Dingley had, and stuff, and so I was just wondering if that's gonna get done, and I didn't know that Dingley had been back and had been sealed either, I didn't know that part, so I was...
Our staff sealed it.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Okay, that's
So
what I
maybe
was
just, if you can give Ron a call.
Yeah.
Just check with Ron and see if he recalls it. I don't recall anything about concrete in the back, but I might have missed that.
Well, then just something for mowing upkeep, just to try to keep, if you could take the zero turn and do it versus come out with a hand trimmer.
Yeah,
It was-
I don't know, but we can
I
certainly
don't,
check into that.
I don't know what it was either, but it was something about keeping the grass away from the wall.
Maybe to
I-
keep moisture away
putting
from
a
the
little
base of
cement.
it.
Yeah. I had a question, actually, Janet. What's the status on the plaque?
Well, yeah, if we can go ahead and do it, what we'd like is we'd like to have, I don't know the size of it either, but a sign, and then it'd be 2 poles. And I think it was a couple $100 maybe or something, and it never got okayed here or anything. And I can't really remember what we wanted to say even now, but
Okay.
You know, we can come back, I can talk to the committee again and say, what was it that we wanted?
Check and see what it was, and is it something that Abels was gonna do the sign?
No, Vacker Signs, it's
Okay. It's
historical signs,
Historical
kinda
sign
like.
company, okay,
Yeah, they're the ones that have done all the, Manaville signs
okay.
and stuff, and I know somebody recommended them, and I talked to Harmony, they have signs all over, and they used a different company and stuff, but I think Vacker was the cheaper one, and they do a good job.
Well, if you wanna come back next meeting, or as soon as you can, on information on the sign,
Yeah, oh,
cost of the sign, is this something that you would cover?
yeah,
We just have to approve it to be put in the
yeah,
park?
we have the funds for it, it was
That would be
earmarked.
just kind of a site plan.
Site plan on where it's gonna go.
Right there, so otherwise, I mean, I think it'd be fine.
Oh,
The type of sign that's at the water tower, is that appropriate for this?
That's not what we wanted, no, we kinda wanted something that's gonna be educational, maybe some pictures in there and a little bit information, you know. It was a WPA wall, a lot of people don't know that, we'd like to have pictures of what it looked like when it was first built, when it was built, we have that one plaque on the wall, but people don't notice it, but just some pictures out there along with it and a little bit of information, so people will stop and read it and realize that this wall is pretty important, and how many people worked on it, and what they got paid a day, you know?
well, see, the more you say it, the bigger the sign gets, so.
Well, no, I mean, it's not gonna say a whole lot, but...
Sort of things where it
There's
like kind
some-
of lays out and kind of has a few pictures.
Right, some huge history
Yeah.
behind it, and just something briefly that will
Right,
give
it's
them the
not gonna be
understanding why it's
real
there.
big, but it's gonna be maybe, that big or something, you know, we don't wanna do something like that, 'cause then you're gonna get it too crowded, if you're gonna put any pictures out there, you wanna put some pictures to get people to look, kids are gonna look at it, and you really, I think, if you talk about it over on Facebook and stuff, people wanna come to Casson, what's in Casson? Well, we have a WPA wall and, and stuff, and so, a sign would be kinda handy to have
Sure,
people come and look
no,
at
I
it.
agree, yep,
So,
totally understand and agree, so come up with something of, how big it is and an idea where you'd want it, so,
okay.
okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, anything else? Do we have any correspondence, anything else somebody's got to talk about? Date for the next meeting? I guess there's a calendar in front of me, my gosh. Today is what, the 17th, so we're looking at the 21st of February for our next park board meeting. Otherwise, if there's nothing else, I need a